Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin Sully, joined by Gordon Mack. Got a busy Friday show for you. Cross country, road racing, indoor track, high school, pro, college, a little bit of it all today. Gordon, how are you?
Doing good. Happy Friday to you, and I'm excited for a jam-packed weekend, especially live on FloTrack. The BU season opener with great 5Ks and 3Ks, the RunningLane Championship, which is the de facto high school cross-country team championship, and then also Valencia Marathon with some top marathoners, all live on Flow, starting with BU season opener this Saturday, tomorrow. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to BU next, and then we'll sprinkle in the other previews as we go. But I wanted to start first with some news in the NCAA world. Cooper Teare, the 5,000-meter champion last year for Oregon, has announced he is going pro, foregoing his final 2 seasons of eligibility. He had indoor, he had outdoor left, but Teare will go pro. Now, what changes will this bring about, Gordon, for Teare? Not many when you actually look at the announcement. He's going to stay in Eugene. He's still going to be coached by Ben Thomas, presumably training with recently turned pro Cole Hawker, perhaps some other Oregon runners as well. What did you think of his decision?
Not surprising, right? We kind of thought Cooper was ready to go pro before cross country. It makes you think, you know, why didn't him and Cole both go pro or both not go pro for the cross country season? You kind of think of what if, if Cole Hawker would have been the cross country. I don't think it would have changed Oregon's chances. Obviously, Cooper had a bad race, but they would have had a big three instead of just a big two. But I think, and at the end of the day, late in the summer, Cooper and Cole were both ready to move on from collegiate running. They kind of had done enough. They've proven themselves where from their indoor campaign last year to what they did in the
Mhm.
outdoor season. Cross country was more just like a filler season. And in the end, they're kind of getting to where they knew they would be. I think uh, this is the right move. They have nothing else to prove. They need to start. Their peak should not be NCAA outdoor championships. It should be
Mhm.
the U.S. championships. And with this, they're able to not have to do, you know, the West prelim
Yeah.
5K round or a hard NCAA final a few weeks out before USA's. So it gets them on the right track. And Cooper is someone who can make the team this year, in first year as a pro. I wouldn't be surprised. He was fourth at the Olympic trials. You know, something's always going to happen. It's not guaranteed that Shalimo, Fisher, and Kincaid are guaranteed the 5K spot next year. One of them could get
Mhm.
injured. One of them could do a different event. You never know. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if he's making a world team in year one as pro.
Mhm. He finished up classes as well this quarter at Oregon, so extending on would have meant more academic responsibilities. And you're right, he's ready to compete now. That was very clear in the indoor season. It was confirmed in the outdoor season. Everybody around this age, you want the good parts of college without the tough parts of college. So in that sense, Cooper Cheers living the dream. He gets to stay there, same coach, same training partners, a lot of the same races. But you're right, cuts out the West prelims, cuts out having to go to more classes after he's already finished his degree. I think he is doing what everybody would have done in this scenario. The one part of it that's interesting to me is this decision is being made under the evolving process that is NIL. And when NIL, name, image, and likeness rules came out last year, you and I talked a lot, and we talked to some people who basically were saying, hey, kind of makes sense. Some of these college athletes might stay in college actually longer because now brands will see value in them as collegiate athletes, maybe more so than other companies would see them as professional athletes. Hawker went pro regardless of that. Teare stayed 1 season and then went pro. But I wouldn't read too much into this because my feeling is, Gordon, we're just really new into the process. with this, and companies are still trying to figure out what it looks like to have an NIL sponsorship to where Nike and Adidas and all the big shoe companies are going to come in. So I don't think right now we know fully what that's going to look like. And I think in a year, someone fitting his profile might actually stay in, but we're just too new to this system yet to where it impacted him.
I mean, you look at this tweet uh, from Masai Russell. She's a runner in the SEC, I
Mhm.
believe. Six figures in
Kentucky.
4 months at the age of 21 ain't too bad. I can only thank the Lord. Heart emoji. Six figures, if I'm counting correctly. That's not including the cents. So that's over $100,000.
Yeah,
Pretty damn good
correct.
for her. And she's doing it
Yeah.
all from NIL, like paid partnership
Mhm.
from Rowdy Energy. And she's
Mhm.
posting herself in her Kentucky uniform at a track practice in the indoor facility. I think she's finding a way. I mean, she's kind of different. She's because of like the Instagram influencer is kind of separate from just being the fastest talent like a Cooper Tier. Sometimes it overlaps.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're really good and you have the Instagram influence, but it's kind of like two different NILs, right? There's the Instagram type and the, you know, extremely potentially can win medals type. Not that saying Masai Russell won't do that because she is very good, but uh,
Well, she's
I
got
think she's getting
400,000
paid
followers on
exactly.
TikTok,
Yeah.
and she's got over 100 whatever on Instagram. Yeah, when I'm talking about the NIL stuff as it pertains to tier, I'm talking about Nike coming in or Adidas
Yeah.
or Puma or these big shoe companies. Like, what's going to happen when they get involved? Will that change who goes pro and when, particularly at schools that have strong, well, every school now in college has a strong relationship with the brand. And I just think this doesn't tell us anything yet because I think they're still in the process of figuring out how that would work. Obviously, they can't get paid for performance, correct? That was one of the rules, and every state
Correct.
has different rules. So they're still figuring out how that works. But in another year or two, the next person who fits the profile of Cooper Tier, they may end up staying longer because a shoe company sees more value in them staying longer and can pay them to stay longer.
And there's also the factor of, you know, I don't know about you, but when I'm 20 or 21 and I can not have to go to class, that's tempting, right?
100%.
So
Yes. Yeah.
these kids still have to go to school and like do homework and study for tests and do class projects. It's you kind of forget
Mhm.
about it when you only follow them in their collegiate athletic area and not realize like there's a
Mhm.
whole world of waking up, going to class, doing this and that. Um, so taking that burden away from an athlete is always going to be enticing. And I think that's a big reason why Cole Hawker was like, screw it, I'm out. Like Cooper Tier probably was like, I can do one more semester. I've already made it this far. I can do one more
Mhm.
semester to
Mhm.
finally get the degree. Cole Hawker was like, hey, I'm one more semester versus not one more semester. There's going to be no difference in
Yeah.
my degree at Oregon because I'm not going to really get that. Maybe he's still studying, so I don't know. But he's probably like, I don't need one more year. I'm out. No more school. So,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I'm getting a big paycheck. So, don't blame him.
When you're
I do want to
18,
say this.
19, 20 years old, 1 month feels like 3 years, and sitting in class sometimes can feel like the biggest burden. When you have the benefit of time and you get older and you're like, "Just what's the big deal? Just sit there in class." But you gotta put yourself in the position of kids at
Yeah,
that age.
I will say this. I am sad that the NCAA 5K, men's 5K, is like slowly
Mhm.
disappearing. No more Luis Grijalva, no Connor Mance, no Cooper Tier, no Cole Hawker. Yared Naguse probably isn't going to be involved. I could just go on and on. It's just it was a great run
Yeah.
for the greatest NCAA event.
It was a couple months.
It was a couple
It was a
months,
couple months run.
but all the
Yeah.
top guys are gone.
Do you think Travis still has the GIF that he made
It
of
probably
you in
does
the
somewhere
NCAA
in the
5K being the
archives.
greatest of it? Yeah. It it burned fast though, wouldn't you say? Like, it was there
Yeah,
all of a sudden, and then now it's gone. It didn't taper off. It didn't have the slow decline. It's just gone now. It's just all over.
yeah. Now we have. Athanas Kyoko in there to kind
Hmm.
of bring some new spirit. There we go. NC men, how memorable. Never forget. Never forget the year
Get
of
Celine Dion to sing it
2021 spring, the NC men's 5K. Anyway,
every
Kyoko's got
night
to bring
in
it back.
my dreams.
Okay, no one needs
I
to hear that.
see
This
you.
is a
I. It's a Titanic song. Okay, let's
people are
stick with
fast forwarding.
college.
Yeah, let's
Let's
go.
stick. Let's stick with college. Let's talk about the BU season opener, Gordon. Then we'll get to athlete of the year and all the other topics of the day. But what are you most interested in? You've seen the start lists. What do you expect to see at BU?
Yeah, so there's basically four really good events: men's and women's 5Ks and men's and women's 3Ks. And the best of the best are here. No one is really missing the party. There may be a couple stars here and there not coming out, but from what it looks like, there's going to probably be, I could say, the most like potentially the eventual NCAA champion in these
Hmm.
events is going to be in this race. Uh, on the women's 5K side, Whitney Orton, who's unattached, will be there, but you also
Hmm.
have Katie Izzo, former Arkansas athlete from Adidas, Courtney Wayment from BYU, Lauren Ryan from
Hmm.
Florida State, Taryn O'Neill, NAU. She's a fast 5K runner. Um, I think Kaylee DeLay, she ran well in cross country for Yale. Then you have all the NC State and and New Mexico runners. But notably, you got to look at someone like Lauren Ryan. She's run 15:22 quietly at the Portland meet in 2021. Her PBs
Hmm.
are 412, 1500, 854, 3K, 1522, 5K. So that is pretty damn good. 15:22, 5K. And we are being told that this is going to be rabbited for a potential collegiate indoor record attempt. And I look at Lauren Ryan coming all the way down from Florida. She's coming here for a reason. She's 15:22. She ran well during cross country season. I think she's ready to rip one. And maybe she is the athlete that they are really targeting to potentially get into that 15 teens and potentially break the NCAA indoor record.
We go to the women's 5,000-meter all-time list here. Obviously, a lot of those performances get set at BU. And at this meet in particular, it's not uncommon for the fastest time of the 20 whatever indoor season to be set the year previous because this counts as the same season. But December oftentimes is the seed time that you have going into um, the March championships. So, yeah, we could see some at least the top 10 list. You're going to see new names pop up on there, I'm sure. What about on the men's side of things?
Men's side, I mean, you could also see a collegiate record attempt there. I'm not sure the men will go as fast because a lot of them are going to be like, hey, let's just kind of, we don't need to go too crazy. But I mean, the top of the top are there, including some good post collegiates. Uh,
Hmm.
Obviously, we have Wesley Kiptoo. He's the man that everyone's going to be watching. And then follow closely behind him, you're going to have the three NAU guys. Well, I guess technically
Hmm.
four when we throw in George Kusha. But, you know, Bosley, Nur, and Young. You also throw in some of the BYU guys with Klinger and Garnica, and then a few other
Some
notable,
pros
like,
too.
Butler's two guys. You have the Iona kid, El Sandali, and then you have Colorado's Eduardo Herrera, who's a 1320 type guy. So you have a lot of 1320s on this track. And then you have the pros, right? Ollie Hoare,
Hmm.
Jordy Beamish, Matt Baxter, names that you remember because of the cross country seasons they've had and the track seasons they had at NAU and Wisconsin. I think put that all together. I think Joe Klecker is rabbiting for On Athletics.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's going to be rabbited by a professional. It's not going to, the pace isn't going to wander. He can handle this pace. And I'm kind of excited to see who kind of emerges. I imagine Kiptoo will be the top guy, but I'm really excited to see
Hmm.
what the pecking order will be behind him in a track race. Cross country is different. It's not going to be the same. And if one of the, if Ollie has a great race, kind of sets him up for a good 1500 down the line. This is a lot of intrigueness that I'm excited for this men's race. And I might already start doing it. Well, I'll probably start
Mm.
doing this on Monday, but seeing four NAU guys in this race, Likely, at least 3 of them are going to run well. They're probably running the 13:20s or 13:30s. I may start doing my annual how can NAU win an indoor track championship because
Mm.
they were on pace to do it right before the pandemic. I was on it. They were going to be they were number one ranked team going into 2020, and then it got shut down, and we never got to see that NAU distance squad try to dominate and win an indoor track title. They Now we'll have to wait. We got to see how Nur, Bosley, and Young. But if they run well here, I'm gonna start formulating an ability that they could put 4 guys in the 5K, 4 to 6 in the 3K, 3 in the mile, have a DMR, and then score potentially 40 to 50 points. But we'll get to that in my NCAA track and field show, which debuts in January.
Kusha's pretty good miler.
Exactly.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Christian Noble, interesting entrant there as well too. He'll be holding it down for the small schools, so it'll be fun to watch him in there. Yeah, you got every level of runner crammed in here. The 3Ks. Did you want to touch on the 3Ks before we move on?
Yeah, and also Andrew Jordan, man, he's running for Georgetown now. I thought he was
Really? Where?
gone, but that's the COVID years. Given some guys who you thought were long gone, he went from Iowa State to Washington. Now he's at Georgetown, and he still has that track eligibility, which is kind of wild.
Yeah,
Anyway,
3K. 3K. What do we got in 3K?
3K. Women got Caitlin Toohey. Be excited to see what she does. I think she's rabbiting the 5 potentially, but maybe she's in both. But I think she's eventually focusing on the 3K for this race. And silly, uh, Kaylee
Haley.
McCabe. I almost call her Cecilia. Kaylee McCabe, West Virginia, trying to follow up her incredible cross country season. See what she does in the 3K. She's a great steepler, so this is her distance. She knows the 3K. She knows that very well. And Caitlin Toohey, I'm excited to see how her go up against her, how she goes up against her. And I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple BYU again. It's everyone, all the NC State, all of BYU, all of New Mexico. They're all here, and a couple individuals like McCabe and Lauren Ryan. It's just going to make this women's 5K and women's 3Ks just really exciting.
On the men's side of things, too, I think the 5 is going to get more attention, but Kyoko in the 3 with some pretty solid runners in there as well, too. I think it'll be a fun one as well, that 3.
I'm guessing Kyoko goes crazy. That's what I'm predicting. I
Good
think we're
prediction.
going to see something extremely fast. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's sub 7:45. I wouldn't be surprised if he's flirting with a 7:39, which would be very
Okay.
quick for college.
Yeah.
This guy is built to he loves going from the gun. You remember seeing his first year in college, he would like go wild and he wasn't fit enough to kind of handle some of the hot paces, but he just went for it anyway. And we're like, what's this guy doing? And then he would die off and he
Mhm.
was just kind of this wild runner. But now he's kind of caught up to his his mind has basically been his physical ability has caught up to what his brain thinks he can do. Obviously, he's went 13-13.
Mhm.
And I think he's gonna. I mean, he ran well at the cross country championships. He's coming off a 13-13 NCAA outdoor where he was neck and neck with Luis Grijalva. This is gonna be his first
Mhm.
track race. He's not gonna be. He's gonna be by himself because he's not gonna be with a Wesley Kiptu or the NAU guys. I mean, I don't think
Right.
Lucas Bonds or Garrett Marsing are going to be anywhere near him. Maybe for the first lap or two, but after that, it's just going to be solo effort, and he's going to run. I'm if if I had to put the over under at 7:45, I would take the under, and I feel like everyone else would take the over, but I would take the under and I would win because I think he's going to run sub 7:45.
Fair enough. Okay, we got a comment from Tom in the chat. Super chat here. Donated as well. Thank you, Tom. He says, can you talk about Horam Beamish's showdown at BU? Well, let's do it some more. Because listen, Beamish has a lot of experience on this track, had a lot of success in that shortened season last year. Remember, they ran that struggled in that 5K, but came back and was part of the really fast 3K, ran 7:44. Hoare is a level up, though, right? Don't forget Hoare's spring season and how good he was in the 1500 outdoors and how he continued to push the pace and push the pace. I think Oliver Hoare approaches this from someone who knows he's going to have a super long season and somebody who knows that 5K is probably not his focus. So he wants just to get a good solid effort there, probably follow his teammate Joe Klecker around the track. But I'm guessing he's really fit, got a 13:22 PB coming off an Olympics. I think he is he's the guy to beat here. I think he could beat obviously I think he could beat Kiptu. That's not saying anything that's outrageous. But I'm more interested, I guess, in Beamish because his season last year wasn't as strong as Horse.
Yeah, and just obviously we know these guys eventually they're going to be focusing on an event that's a third of the distance, running a
Hmm.
1500. Um, but I do think it's important for both of these guys to have strong 5K PBs and put
Yeah.
strong 5K efforts. Most of the top 1500-meter runners can run a good 5K. Jakob Ingebrigtsen can run a good 5K. Centra was running 13 flat. You know, I think there's just that element of in order to develop, which makes me actually think: has Timothy Cheruiyot ever run a 5,000?
I'll look that up for you. Keep going.
Anyway, find that out. But just in general, I've been seeing a trend that most of the top 1500-meter runners at the world level, when you look at an Olympic final, a world final, you look at their 5K PBs, and a lot of them are going to be 13:0 for a 5K. And so I think
Timothy
Oliver
Chariot
Hoare,
has run 13:47 at
oh,
altitude in
wow.
2020.
So he's the admiration. He's the admiration? What's the word? Admiration? Is it AD or AB? B, admiration.
Oh,
Anyway,
aberration. You're trying to say
aberration.
aberration.
That's what
Okay.
I'm trying to come up with. Aberration. Thank you.
Sometimes you
It's
miss
on
so
phonics. Works for
sometimes
me.
I can usually get it, but sometimes you're so far off. I have to like jump in your brain and try to figure out where it went wrong. Shout out to Colt
Yeah.
for helping me on that one.
Thank
Colt's
you.
listened to enough of Gordon Mack. Go ahead. Aberration. Yes.
Aberration. So, but in generally, what I'm trying to say is I think Oliver Hoare and Jordy Beamish both recognize we need to get even stronger and stronger and stronger in the 5K a way to kind of quantify that. And so they're kind of see how
Yeah.
strong they are coming off of the off season by opening up with the 5K because they can worry about speed later. Right now, they're trying to build up the strength. So I think
We got a comment in
with the
the
matchup,
chat
I
that
think
says they're
Oliver Hoare is
both
going
going
to
to go.
win. I think Oliver Hoare will win between them two.
So we got a comment in the chat that says both of them are targeting for their national indoor records, which is around 13:24 for both. So that's New Zealand for Beamish and Australia for Hoare. Listen, if Jordy Beamish is low 13:20, both these guys, if they're like sub 13:20 now, it's a pretty good sign for their
Yeah,
chances outdoors. Doesn't guarantee success, but that's a pretty good sign. Particularly Beamish, who's someone who he did really great in cross country, but his his track PBs are not in line. His longer distance track PBs aren't in line with what he can do in the 1500. Hoare has that 13:22, so you can kind of hang your hat on that. Although I
yeah,
think he's even better than that. But both these guys are kind of similar in that they were NCAA slash 1500-meter champions, but were good in cross and had the potential to be solid in
yeah,
cross. You see some of those milers out there who go to cross and get 190th all season. Like these guys were both solid. Hoare was just the most versatile runner during his time at Wisconsin, 1500 all the way up to 10,000. So
yeah.
that's on Saturday night, live on FloTrack. Check it out. We'll break down all the races next week. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be some markers laid down in the early season that I'm really excited to talk about.
What's next on the rundown?
Next on the rundown, we'll talk athlete of the year. Carson Warholm and Elaine Tom were the big winners. Rising Star Award went to a Thing Mo and Arian Knighton. But I really want to focus on these two. We broke down the women's field. We broke down the men's field. I had two different picks than the two that were selected. I thought Yulimar Rojas and Ryan Krauser should be the big winners. Thompson Hurrah, though, obviously, I think that was our consensus number two, although Sifan Hassan had a strong case as well, too. Let's start with her. Let's start with the women. Um, Obviously, I thought Rojas would win. She won it last year, probably hurt her coming back, but just the depth and consistency with Rojas was amazing. I'm not going to get too upset though, because what Thompson Hurrah did was insane. Number two performances all time, almost broke world records in events that we thought the world record was completely out of reach. She competed a lot, which I give extra credit to. She performed great at the most important moments of the season. Again, would have given the edge to Rojas. Not too upset about Thompson Hurrah getting this award.
Yeah, I mean, they 100% didn't give it to Rojas because she won last year and because she runs a not as popular event. I think you have your most popular event and you have an athlete do stuff that is not just good, but like in the categories of all time great. It just gets trumped over everything else. And I think
Mm,
it may not be fair, but 100-meter dash, that's the essence of track and field. Fastest runner in the
mhm.
world. And she wasn't just the fastest runner in the world, she was the fastest runner in the world, arguably of all time, potentially of all time, but number two, technically, behind FloJo. But that's just going to get more
Yeah.
eyeballs. That's going to be looked at in a grander setting than what Rojas did in the triple jump. And even though what Rojas did in triple jump would be like Elaine Thompson running 10.5 like 5 times, which he didn't. But
Mhm.
two different sports, and there's a
Yeah.
hierarchy, and you just have to understand that's what they're going to do. And plus, they gave it to her last year, so like Rojas kind of was handicapped by the fact that she won it in 2020. But I'm not against this
And
award. I'm not against it. She deserves it. I don't think there's any really flaw in awarding Elaine Thompson Hurrah. So
And I thought Rojas shouldn't have got it last year. So I guess it all evens out
there you go.
in the end because now she has one and Elaine Thompson Hurrah has one. You nailed it when you said it's two different sports. The only way you can really make a really solid comparison if people are in two different events, if they're in two different events where the opportunities to compete are the same, meaning there's no opportunity to double. The competition is the same. The historical markers that they are compared to are somehow in the same ballpark, meaning there hasn't been one crazy outlier performance or the event isn't new or the event isn't influenced by technology or a great race getting set up with rabbits, and that's just impossible to do. So you end up in the situation where comparing a person who's able to compete multiple times in different events with someone who's only able to compete once. Rojas had technically she took that loss with the new Diamond League jump off rules, although she had the better mark in that series. I don't know if that was weighed against her at all. It obviously shouldn't be, but it's very difficult to make these comparisons. I do feel a
Yeah.
bit stronger when we go to the men's side of things. I do feel a bit stronger that it should have been Ryan Krauser over Carson Warholm. Not to take anything away from Carson Warholm. Obviously phenomenal. Sub 46, beat Ry Benjamin, who's the second best of all time, brought it when it. But, and this is the ultimate but here, these guys were tied in a lot of senses, right? Both have historical marks. Both broke the world record. Both won gold medals. Both were undefeated. To me, the tiebreaker then goes to frequency of competition. And Krauser just competed more frequently, and none of his competitions, absolutely none of them, were letdown performances. I think Warholm, in any other year, it probably would have been a runaway. The fact that it was close this year just shows you how good Krauser was, but I still would have gone to Krauser. We've talked about his stats ad nauseum, and I just thought if Warholm's one flaw was just didn't run a ton.
Yeah, I think this situation, people maybe were just living in the moment, and Warholm was like that ultimate moment at the Olympics because it was an ultimate race showdown. Um, I think Krauser deserves it. Not to take Warholm's an incredible athlete, but like Krauser, it was just I mean, the problem is again, Krauser can do it more often than Warholm because Warholm's building up to an incredible endurance
Mhm.
feat. It takes a lot out of you. Whereas, I mean, I'm sure throwing takes a lot out of you, but it is easier to recover. I feel like from I, maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like it's easier to have multiple great throws in a season to have multiple great 400-meter hurdle races in a
Sure,
season.
sure, but look at his actual when you break down his actual season, he in the 400-meter hurdles, he ran 5 finals.
Yeah.
Oslo, Monaco, Tokyo, Zurich, Berlin. The Berlin run at the end, he ran 48 and just kind of cruised through it. So you can kind of take that one off the board. So he ran 2 races before the Olympics, which were great. Set the world record in his first one. Then ran the Olympics and then won after. Again, any other time that would be enough, but you have to split hairs to make a decision here, and that's why I would say, all right, I'd give the edge to Krauser just because he competed more frequently. Although
I
Warholm's suit was on point, I will say that.
Yes, I would say that at least Warholm has the Taron Egerton of Kingsman suit look on point. I mean, he looks like he should be in Kingsman, the movie that's coming out later this month. Have you ever seen Kingsman? It's a great series. It's a great franchise. The Kingsman
I
with
have
Taron
not.
Egerton. It's great.
I have not.
But yeah, I think Carson Warholm. If Carson Warholm is going to have a movie made about him, Taron Egerton is definitely playing him in that role because they look uh, literally
That's
alike.
pretty good. Yeah, that's well done there. That's a good callback.
Can we get a Taron
Yeah.
Egerton? He played what's his name? Um what's the singer? Elton John. He played Elton John and now he can play Carson Warholm in the 2024 movie of his 400-meter hurdle life.
Natural progression there, I
Natural
think.
progression.
Most people go from pop star to track star when they are in the film. All right, let's move on. Let's talk high school now, real quick, and then we'll talk about Valencia, and then we'll do emails. Running Lane Invitation. Why don't you just explain to folks what it is who may not be familiar with the meet and its significance this year?
So Running Lane cross country championships held in Huntsville, Alabama, I believe. Think it's been around for 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure the exact, but it's I think it blossomed during the pandemic because it gave these high school kids an opportunity to race each other, especially at the elite level. So it was kind of a little mini invitational that was created, and we notably had some great performances. I think Jenna Hutchinson ran her sub 16 5K there, if
Hmm.
I'm not mistaken. Was that
Hmm.
during 2020 or 2020? I'm not. I'll be honest. 2020, 2021 all blend together. So I'm not sure
That was
exactly
20.
the
That was 2020. That was 2020.
2020.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, but anyway, they've been building something down there in Alabama, a great high school opportunity, a great opportunity for high school athletes to compete against the best. And originally, this meet was planned to kind of be the third type of elite meet between
Mhm.
NXN, East Bay, formerly known as Foot Locker, and then also Running Lane. And they were going to be all at 3 different weekends. But then, as you
Mhm.
guys know, NXN decided to cancel their final, and as a result, Running Lane was like, "All right, there's no team championship. We can do that." So they moved their date to the old NXN date, which is this weekend, and the best teams are all going. Notably, Newberry Park. Right? It's not. We could not have a cross country team championship if Newberry Park decide not to show up. They're there, they legitimize it, and all the other best athletes are all coming down to Alabama, who have great teams, and we're gonna have a great race. And I'm sure people are excited to see how Newberry Park is going to follow up what they did at the cross country state meet, which we talked about in ad nauseum a week ago. Fast women on the women's side, men's side is going to be great. It's just cool to have cross country national championship, which we thought we weren't going to have. We hadn't had it the past year or two now, but now we have one, and everyone's going, and it's going to be exciting. And I don't know, it's going to be live on FloTrack and mile split, so you can check it out. And yeah, so that is the birth. We have Running Lane Cross Country Championships. The Garmin Running Lane Cross Country Championships. They're the title
Mm-hmm.
sponsor. Uh, that is, when you look at the 2021 in the history book, will be the results you reference to see which teams were the best teams that season. And so we'll find out this weekend.
Got a sneaking suspicion on the men's side it's going to be Newbury Park. I
Yeah, it's a
like their
good
tune-up.
sneaking. You like
I
their
like where
chances?
they're at. I like. So, do you have those rankings again? The top 10. How many of those guys are in the top 10 of their big
What do you mean
four
top 10?
individually? Like if we had,
Oh,
if we go back in the day to where it was just Foot Locker and it was just
the
an
mile split
individual
rankings.
race, yeah, would they have got? They would have gotten four guys out of the West. I'm assuming, no question.
So the mile split rankings, the number one ranked athlete, Riley Hough,
Yeah,
Hough
of
from
Michigan.
Michigan. He's the number one
Yeah,
ranked athlete. He's going to be running at the Running Lane Cross Country Championships. He's ranked number one. Number two is Gavin Sherry, who just came off of a fast East Bay Northeast Regional. Then three is Colin Salmon. Four is Leo Young. Five is Lex Young. So this school has three of the top five athletes in the nation. And
yeah.
then Aaron Solomon, their number four guy, is ranked ninth in the country.
Okay,
So they have four guys ranked in the top 10.
right. And if you broke it down by regions, again, I'm just putting this in terms from back in the day. They almost could have qualified five guys to their like they could have qualified their team to Foot Locker Nationals back in the day. Like they could
Yeah,
have had a team
I
sport
think. Yeah, if you
because
look
it's
at
by
the
region. It's not
California,
overall.
the California regional, yeah, they probably, I think they could have potentially
It
put.
would have been West.
I mean, definitely would
It
have
would
got
have been West
four,
if it.
but the West regional, yeah, sorry, excuse me. Uh, they could definitely get four. The fifth would have been really hard to get into the top 10, but
Mhm.
hey, crazier things
So
have happened. But they definitely would qualify four guys into the Foot Locker championship. But they're going to Running Lane, which makes it a great race. It's exciting.
so the expectation here is at four in the top 10.
No, I think their expectation here is putting like four in the top five. With this race,
That's
hell yeah.
confident.
They're, I
That's
mean,
confident.
because some of these other top guys I think aren't going to be there. They're going to be getting ready for East Bay championships. So I
Gotcha.
think
Okay.
they're thinking, let's try to put four in the top six or seven, maybe five.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
They're always just going to do something crazy, right? This is how it is.
That just seems. It just seems like there's no way they can lose. And you hate to say that in a sport like cross country or any sporting event where there's obviously some degree of unpredictability. But it's just I don't know what to get. Like three guys could miss the start of the race and they'd be fine. That would be like how good's their B team?
Dude, the B team's great. They would.
I'm sure it is.
I
All right.
mean, I saw we got an email from someone who said that I was
What's emails
crazy.
later?
Oh, okay.
What's emails later? Let's save that. Save that. Save
Okay.
that. Save that. Let's talk about. I want to talk about Valencia real quick because this has the potential to be a crazy fast race as per usual because it's in Valencia, and we haven't seen the huge time yet. And this could be it. This could be it. So on the men's side, you have Lawrence Chirono, who was fourth at the Olympics. He was second in this race last year. You have Jeffrey Camwar, whose PB is very old at this point. It goes way back to 2012, but he's a notable name here because of his success in World Marathon Majors. But this will be his first one since 2019 when he won New York City. So all totaled, you have three sub 204 guys led by Chirono, and then you have three more sub 205 runners. Some of them have experience in Valencia. Some of them do not. I don't see any way that this isn't fast. It's just a matter of how fast. On the women's side, the PBs, they're missing the big three there of Jep Cheer, Koskai, and Jep Koskai, but you still have two women sub 220 who on this course, who knows how quickly they'll run. But the fall was just a little quiet for me, Gordon. It makes me think that there's going to be an eruption here.
Really?
Yeah,
You've been
sub
like just
203.
being like something's happening. You've been holding on to your chair. Be like, there's a rumbling. There's a rumbling happening out in
Yeah,
over there in
we're
Europe.
in the car. We're in the car in Jurassic Park, and everything's going fine. And then the power goes
Okay.
out, and our Jeep is there, and all of a sudden, the water cup is shaking. The water cup is shaking. And listen, I think we could see some 202s here. Not not outside the realm of possibilities. But all these other marathons, because of weather, because of courses, because of the lack of Kipchoge, they didn't have that jaw-dropping time. We've seen some jaw-dropping times in the half this year. Just saw a world half marathon record with Jacob Kiplimo. Women's side of things, obviously, has been quicker, but I'm just talking about the men's. We haven't seen it yet. I think you put Chirono, you put Cam Moore, and you put all these other guys out there on the course, you're going to see something fast. So sub 203,
Is
I think, is in play.
I know there's is Valencia angling to try to be a world major at the marathon level?
I've wondered that, and it made me think about meets that are basically Diamond League quality. And hey, do you want to be a Diamond League? And I've heard that sometimes they turn that down because there's restrictions that get put in terms of like what events you can run. And some meet directors like, no, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I don't know if that exists in marathons because it's not as if, hey, what events you can run a marathon? We're gonna run a marathon, but maybe there's some sort of sponsor situation. I know in Valencia, all this running stuff is being funded by a super rich guy who's just apparently into running and all these 10Ks, these half marathons, these 5Ks, these marathons are being underwritten by him. Obviously, the city's invested in it a bunch as well. I don't know if that's in play, but yeah, it essentially like because people are racing more frequently, you could create a winter marathon cycle if you wanted to, and you could include Valencia. Tokyo is already in there, and maybe you move Tokyo up a little bit so that way it's closer and then Dubai as well. And you could have a December, January in the same way that you have an April, and in the same way that you have a fall season with September, October,
October,
November.
November.
It'd be
Yeah.
yeah. I'd like it if they crunch them more together, so that way people could recover. Like it would be more deliberately spaced out, so we could go to 3 marathons a year, three seasons. Um, but I think Valencia is basically a major in quality. I think it's proven that now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to bring it up, man. I'll tell you. Majors
Uh
are the
oh.
way to grow the I'm not first of all, I don't want to say that word. I hate when
No,
people
don't
say the
say that
phrase
word.
grow the sport. It's super
Mhm.
annoying, so I'm not going to say it. I almost said it. But majors
Caught yourself.
are a formula to make track and field an interesting thing to watch, and we already have it in this thing called World Marathon Majors. So what if,
Mhm.
just what if these marathons happen on a Sunday? What if that city hosted, hear me out, a 4-day track meet where it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday was marathon day. Sunday was also the finals
Mhm.
of the track. Everyone came in to run their marathon, and before they come to run their marathon, they're sitting in the stands watching an elite track meet. Imagine
Mhm.
if London Marathon was also a 4-day track meet, Tokyo Marathon was also a 4-day track meet, Boston or New York or Chicago Marathon was also a 4-day track meet. People would get excited. People would, I mean, you have 4-day tournaments in golf. You have tennis is a little bit longer. It's like a whole week long, but you have the championship weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It can
Yeah.
happen. We already have the cities. I'm sure Boston would love to like turn it into not just a marathon weekend, but like a whole running event weekend where you have Usain Bolt running a 100-meter dash Sunday night after Des Linden just won the Boston Marathon. Like, imagine that world. They've been like, it would be
Mhm.
running
What the
ecstasy.
world?
Running ecstasy.
Okay, calm down. Calm down, Gordon. Calm down. Calm down. Okay, let's do emails. Also comments. We got one in the chat here asked who should have gotten it last year instead of Rojas. So the finalists last year for the women were Gade, Hassan, Perez Jepchirchir, Rojas, and Elaine Thompson Hurrah. Now, Rojas ultimately got it. She broke the world indoor record last year, but she jump in four competitions basically, two indoors, two outdoors. I know outdoors, well, indoors too, was all screwed up because of the pandemic. Um, but I thought Jepchirchir should have gotten it. Jepchirchir broke. She won the world half title, and she broke the half marathon like single gender record twice. She ran 65 twice, and then the problem, they should not give this award out until like all the events are completed, because then she went on to in Valencia and won that and ran 217. So she owned her event. Um, there was a global championship. She won it. Hassan didn't race a ton. Gade barely raced at all, but she broke the world record. But I remember at the time thinking this should have been Jep Chirchir. A half marathoner only competing a few times is different than a track athlete only competing a few times. I just think Rojas didn't jump enough in 2020, but she got it, and she didn't get it this year when she deserved it. So the universe sorted that out. Emails. Here we go. First one. Subject line: capture the flag. Actually, no, I'm going to save that one. Let's do Bill. TV revenue impact on Olympic trials is the subject line. So remember we talked about this when you were discussing the rumors that you heard about potentially not having the Olympic trials next time around for the marathon. It says, where does the TV broadcast rights revenue play in the question of rankings versus Olympic trials? What do you think, Gordon?
What do you mean, question of rankings versus Olympic trials? Oh, just
Basically,
like,
do do you think USATF is going to push back on rankings because it would take away their massive TV product, which is the Olympic trials, not just in marathon, but more so in track, where it's programming.
I'm willing to say, people may not want to believe this, but I guarantee that the broadcast rights to the Olympic marathon trials are not as big as you think they are. I think the broadcast rights to the Olympic trials, aka the swimming, the wrestling, the track, the whatever, all the
Yeah,
sports,
yeah.
that number is a big number. But the number to the marathon is negligible. I think
Mhm.
that, and a lot of times you can tell people when you watch track and field on TV, watch the commercials, see what type of commercials you see. If you see commercials that are super unique and niche, if you see a lot of like USATF commercials, you know they're not sell. This is not getting the amount of revenue as you think. When you see like
Mhm.
Toyota, IBM, major like commercials that you see on an NFL broadcast, you know that's making money. But when you see like commercials that look like you're watching a web broadcast, it's because it's not really getting the TV ratings that you think. We think it's the Super Bowl, and it is. But to NBC execs who are looking at, the bigger picture than just running, it's not as big. And I think that the TV revenue of the Olympic marathon trials is not as big as we think it is. I think the revenue is only really tied to all the sports as a whole, which is a big
Right,
number. That's
right.
probably in the
Yeah,
millions to billions or whatever. But taking out one like it's only like 2 hours of broadcasting time or 3 hours of broadcasting time. Taking out
right.
3 hours of their 400 hours of coverage is not going to really be like a no, we only have 397 hours. NBC's going to be like, whatever, we have 397 hours of trials coverage.
Yeah,
Who
but
cares
for
if we don't have
track,
400?
for track, it's a totally different story. I think you're right. Big picture, it's a small number, but for them, and if your job is over track and you're looking at, hey, how many opportunities are we getting on TV? This is one of them. It would be part of the pushback, I think. If you were in a room, if you're USATF and you're arguing with World Athletics, hey, we need to keep the trials system. Part of it is, hey, guys, like we need to make sure we're on TV and this is one of our big events. Like let's do it. Look at all this revenue, blah blah blah. Look at this great exposure for the sport. That would be one of the things that you would pitch. But you're right in that within the larger package of just Olympic trials, it's 3 hours amongst many hours. Um, Track, I think, would be different. Track, I think, really does anchor that summer block because they overlap with swimming, and usually it goes swimming to track, so they have it all locked in and figured out. I think they get obviously good numbers. That's when you see people tuning in who haven't tuned in at all to track the previous years to check it out.
This is the amount of views the Olympic marathon trials, I guess, 10-minute highlight has on YouTube on NBC Sports. 100,000 views, 100,000 views. That's men and women each. On Team USA's account, that's only that's only a minute. But yeah. All right, here's like so the Olympic trials is getting 100,000 views per race on YouTube. For comparison, it's not that much, right? We've had podcast clips get 200,000 views talking about stuff. So I think
Not many though. Not
that
many.
revenue, like broadcasting revenue
Right.
thing, I think it would be very, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want them to cancel it. I want to have these, but I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
be the big push at the end. Like, hey, you can't do it because we have millions and millions of dollars. I just don't feel like they have that in the marathon trials. I think they have that in just the trials as a whole. So it's like would canceling the if you get track and field, right? And all of a sudden we just like removed the 10K from track and field.
Yeah.
Do you think NBC's media rights deal would change?
No, not at all.
Exactly. So
I looked it up. Spurs Blazers last night, which was one of the most unremarkable games in NBA history, and I say that as a very, very big San Antonio Spurs fan, has 90,000 views already on YouTube, just to give a little bit of perspective. The 10-minute highlight. Okay, let's keep moving here. Let's go to Kevin. Not me. I did not create a burner account to troll Gordon with this, but this is the email that Gordon was responding to earlier. It says, Gordon normally claims to be a guy who pays attention to data. I love it. Normally claims to be a guy who pays attention to data. I love that sentence.
I walk around.
You guys either completely ignored times or we're trying to be provocative by claiming that Newberry Park could make the NCAA meet and wouldn't finish last. The only way that would happen is if their guys can all run 8:25 to 8:40 in the 3,200, and even then they probably wouldn't make it due to the move to 10Ks 2 weeks in a row. A fifth runner who will only run 9 flat for 3,200 this spring would finish dead last in the NCAA. Take a look at how many 14 flat guys were in the last 10 in the race, and Newberry Park's fifth can't run anywhere near 14 flat. Newberry Park would be lucky to finish top 10 in most regionals. I estimate they are equivalent to about the 100th best D1 team by using LACCTIC. I don't know. Do you know what that is? The acronym?
No, it's probably some
sort of converter.
Yeah.
I challenge you, Kevin says, I challenge you to take a few minutes to review their times and compare them to D1. Gordon, did you take him up on the challenge?
Oh, yeah, I took him up on the challenge. Okay. What did I say that Newberry Park would do? I said they would finish what? One guy in the top 40? And then they would have...
You said one. Yeah, you said 2 in 70s and 80s. And then I think you said...
70s and 80s.
Someone in the low hundreds.
Or in the mid hundreds, and then they're 5 in 200.
Yeah.
And then that as a score would be in the 20s because that you can't argue. If I create a team that's 20, if I create a team that's 40, 70, 150, 200, that's not going to be a dead last team. Like, can't argue that. And he's saying, like, there's no way that man will finish 40th or 7th. Those kids will finish 40th or 70th or 100th. Okay, let's look at Uh, Acer Iverson, Harvard kid. His PBs 413 in the mile, 808 in the 3K. He finished. What place did he finish? He finished 40th. Whoa, we look at that. 40th. Okay, well, let's look at a kid who finished 100th. Or what place is it? 98th. A kid who finished 98th. His 5K PB, Karami Yago of South Alabama, his 5K
Hmm.
PB is 1434. You could go through and find hundreds, I'm not kidding, hundreds of athletes in the NCAA cross country championship of the 255 field who have 5K PBs of 1410 and slower.
Hmm.
Like, it's just a reality. Like, because you don't need to be, not everyone that makes NCAAs is 1350.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are 1420 guys, 1430 guys, 1410, 1405. They're not all 1350. But take that away. Colin Solomon, Lex Young, and Leo Young, they're all 1350 quality guys. Nico Young went on to run 1350 that season.
Yeah.
German Fernandez was a 1350 quality runner that season, and they are 1 second within it. Newberry Park, if they were to run a 5K time trial in if they do, but if they were in a
If they went
5K
to
trial, they would
BU,
have three guys. If they went to BU, they would have three guys run in the 1350 to 1359 range, and one guy run like a 1420 to 1425 range. And then when you look at the NCAA results, literal, and look at the 5K PBs of some of these guys, they're not all around 1350. Yes, you're gonna have an outlier here and there, and whatever, but you look at the quality of. Let's look at the time. Give me a place.
75th.
75th. So you gotta go plus and minus because I know one guy he's good. So we'll do 73rd. It's even better. He doesn't have a 5K PO. He's a freshman.
Yeah, I got one for you. Ready? You want one?
Yeah, give me one.
You want? Okay. 247th. What was his 5K PB?
Okay. That's Cooper Teare. Yeah, okay.
You
Let's
got to run
do
1312. You got to run 1312 and 350 to be in the top
okay.
247 and instead of a cross.
Here we
It's
go.
insane.
77th. 77th. So that's near 75th. Eastern Illinois, Dustin Hatfield. He's run a 414 mile, 812 3K, 1404 5K. 1404 5K. These kids can run
Yeah.
1350. And they're going to. Like, we just don't know it yet, but they're going to run fast.
Here's the
They're all
thing.
going to run extremely fast 5Ks. So,
With this hypothetical is fraught, obviously, because the distance is different. And then you're asking, okay, if they were in this year's championship, if they'd be in the championship in next year, where would they fit in? So you could just argue forever about those sort of things and make up weird numbers because nobody really knows for sure how it's going to go from 5K to 10K. But here's what is guaranteed. We talked about this when we talk about RunningLane. You're saying they have right now 3 of the top 5 runners in the nation, correct? Or on that team,
yes.
and 4 potentially the top 10, correct? If
Yeah.
any team had that recruiting class coming in and that was their whole team that next fall, or even if it was a shortened season, you would not say they wouldn't make the meet, right? If
You
you
know
had a
what?
team
When you say
for
that,
if you had a team, go ahead.
you said 3 of the top 5 in the nation, right?
Right.
So let's pretend that a team and they had 4 of the top 10. Let's
And
go 4 of the top 10,
yeah, I mean that's a
right?
hypothetical again, and people can ding us on that and say, well, you're just making up stats, but it's not even where they stack up compared to this year's team. It's you look at the time that they ran at Woodward Park, and it's a historical thing. It's not as if it's a weak year. You can pin their times close to Nico Young's times, close to German Fernandez's times, and all those people who've run in California and get a really good gauge of where they're at.
Here's a fun thing. Now this isn't obviously scientific because actually let's look at I probably shouldn't look at this year because freshman is a weird thing. What's the last year where we had a normal freshman class? That would be 2019, right? So this doesn't
Yeah.
count, but let's look at 20. So if a team had 3 of the best 5 freshmen, what would that team look like? Right? Because let's
Mhm.
look at the freshmen of 2019 on the men's side. And let's say that team had the third best freshman, the fourth best freshman, and the fifth best freshman. So even taking away whatever, right? So
Yeah.
in 2019, because that's when freshmen were, you know, more normal. So that means they would have had the 33rd place finisher, the 46th place finisher, and the 48th place finisher. That's where the third best freshman, the fourth best freshman, and the fifth best freshman finished in 2019. 33rd,
Mhm.
46, and 48. If a team had a 33rd, 46, and 48 finisher, they're not going to finish dead last. They're not going to finish 100th out of all the teams
Mhm.
in the NCAA. Rest my case.
And I would argue that these would be special freshmen too, because
Yeah, that too.
not all freshmen are the same when you're looking at where they stack up historically. Yeah, you had. Let me look at this. Let me type in FR here. Search. Let's go to the men. How many freshmen did you have? Are you counting Bosley in that or no? Because he's a redshirt. You don't count him. Bosley was
Well,
22nd
I
that
went to
year.
2019 to go to normal freshmen because
Well, yeah,
2020 and
but that was 20,
2021, it's like all
2019 was Bosley 22nd.
yeah. No, so I went the third, fourth, and
Oh, I
fifth
see.
best
I see.
freshman.
You
Yeah.
didn't even give him the best freshman. Gotcha. You didn't even give him
No,
okay. So yeah.
I didn't count Bosley, Jacobs, or Abdi Hamid. I counted Abdi Hamid Nur, Brody Hasty, and Colin Baker. Brody
So listen,
Hasty, 46. Like they're better than Brody Hasty was in high school. It's not
yeah,
even close.
22, 22, 29, 33. These are the freshmen. 46, 48, 64, 69, 90, 97, 99, 116, 112, 128, 132,
Yeah,
139,
it's a
142.
lot of
And
freshmen.
even like we don't really talk about who gets 140th because we're paying a lot of attention to the front of the pack. But like a lot of teams finish top 20 in the meet, having a good portion of their runners in those ranges, right?
Yeah,
Like like
exactly.
like Boise State that year got 21st, and they went 25, 57, 137, 138, 168. All right, we'll move on.
We'll move
David
on.
says you're right about Newberry Park. So we got a comment in the chat that says you're right. So there we go.
Yes, Team
All right.
Davy.
If you ever want to get Gordon wrapped around an axle, write an email to flotrackpodcast@gmail.com. Explain, pick something that he said, explain why it's silly, and then write the following sentence at the end. I challenge you to take a few minutes to refute me. And you can guarantee you know what Gordon will be doing for the
Yeah,
next day.
not that hard.
Last
Freshmen do
email from
well.
yeah, and again, it's not a guarantee, but you're not relying on one of them because the depth is crazy.
Yeah,
And remember, their fifth wasn't even that bad either. Uh, Dennis says, when you were discussing the charity capture the flag challenge, all I could think of was Wade Van Niekerk. He blew out his knee in a charity touch rugby match. He wasn't even hit. He just made a simple cut and was done. Van Niekerk curses himself still for participating in the rugby match, declaring it was, quote, the worst decision to make. Quote, my body was conditioned for running straight, not zigzags. With 10 track athletes, juking, cutting left, cutting right, quick stops, fast starts, the field would look like the opening of Saving Private Ryan. As much as I don't like him, the best track, in quotes, athlete for this event would be Tyreek Hill and other former track athletes who've been training their bodies for the NFL. That is Dennis. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that. The parameters we put around it, though, is they have to be a track athlete. Now, if Tyreek Hill decides, hey, I want to run track so I can win a gold medal that's worth roughly 1/30th of my Super Bowl ring, then we can add him. But until then, we can't.
yeah. They can't. No, Tyreek's not a track athlete. Just because you ran track in high school doesn't make you a track athlete. It's the parameters were track today. Yeah, and also the parameters were what would be a fun team to have, and that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, I agree. I don't
Yeah,
think any of them would want to play capture the flag because there would be a lot of ACLs on the ground.
yeah. I don't. I'm not one of those people who track is the best for every single little thing because I get annoyed when other people do that about track. So I wouldn't pretend that track athletes are going to be the best at moving laterally. But That's why I was going. We were talking hurdlers, we were talking shot putters, talking multi-event athletes. Little extra added dose of athleticism for them. That's it.
What's
That's
next?
the show.
Is
We
that
did it.
it?
We
That's
did
the
it.
show.
Yeah,
We
we
did
did
it.
it. It's
We did it,
over.
man.
It's done.
Subscribe. Are we retiring the podcast? Is this the last episode of the podcast?
No, don't say that. Why would you say that?
Okay, good. Good. Well,
We
you
got to
just
get
said
you
we
to
were done.
Belgrade. We got to get you to Belgrade for
Said we,
World Indoors, Gordon. I can't go
you
that
said we
weekend. I
were
checked
done.
my schedule, but I think you're available. Thanks to Colt. Thanks to Travis. Check out Garmin Running Lane. Check out BU, Valencia Marathon all this weekend, all on FloTrack, and then we'll discuss it all on Monday. Have a good weekend, everyone.